You're sitting in a seat at 200 miles per hour. A curve arrives. You don't grab the armrest. Your water bottle doesn't tip. 3 rows back, someone's toddler doesn't even stir. Nothing in that car behaves the way physics says it should. This is not comfort engineering. This is not clever padding or better shock absorbers. What you're experiencing is the outcome of one of the most precisely calculated systems ever put into motion. A machine designed to win a fight that physics starts fresh every single second. Why can't physics win? Because at 200 miles per hour, physics is not passive. Centrifugal force drives the train outward through every bend. Aerodynamic pressure builds against the frame and tries to lift it off the rail. Resonant vibration accumulates inside the steel until the structure wants to tear itself apart. Any one of those forces left alone ends the same way. All 3 running simultaneously is the Shinkansen's normal operating condition. 420,000 passengers every day. 0 fatal derailments across 6 decades of service. That statistic has no business existing. What made them start over? Here's what made it possible. Before 1964, every train in Japan ran on the same track gauge, the fixed distance between rails that engineers had inherited from the 1800s without questioning it. It was narrow, it was standard, it was completely wrong for what came next. When the engineers designing the Shinkansen modeled the physics of sustained high-speed operation on that gauge, they didn't find a performance gap. They found a trap. The center of gravity sat too high, cornering loads were too extreme. No modification to the existing system would fix it. The geometry itself was the problem. Their answer was the kind of decision that only desperation and ambition can produce together. They threw out the old track entirely. They built a new, wider, dedicated line, one that couldn't share a single inch of infrastructure with any existing train in the country. Not an improvement, a severance. The year was 1964, the Tokyo Olympics. Every camera in the world was pointed at Japan, a country that had rebuilt itself from the ground up in under 2 decades and needed to prove it belonged at the front of the modern world. A derailment wasn't just a technical failure, it was a national one. The engineers understood that. So they didn't cut corners, they cut the old gauge instead. How does the train corner? The foundation they built starts with the track geometry itself. Every curve on the network is banked, the outer rail raised and tilted inward, angling the whole line toward the center of each turn. Engineers call this cant. What it actually does is take the centrifugal force that would otherwise push the train sideways and redirect it straight down into the rail. The curve stops fighting the train, it starts working with it. Each of the 16 cars uses smart bogies with sensors that read the track ahead. At speeds up to 200 miles per hour, the system tilts each car inward in milliseconds like a motorcyclist, keeping the ride smooth and stable. The long nose isn't for style. At 200 miles per hour, entering a tunnel creates strong air pressure, and the nose shape reduces it early for a safer, quieter ride. So you now know how the train handles a curve. But if all of that is already in place, why does the safety record still feel impossible? What is the one thing every engineer checks before a single train moves in the morning? And why does the answer cost more than the trains themselves? That's exactly what comes next. What actually keeps it safe? Here's the part that flips what you think you know. Most people assume the Shinkansen stays on the rails because of the train, the engineering on board, the tilting systems, the precision bogies. That instinct is wrong. The real reason is the track. Every night after the last Shinkansen clears the line, a fleet of automated inspection vehicles rolls through the network in total darkness. Their sensors map the position of every rail down to a few millimeters. If temperature expansion has shifted a section, if soil movement has nudged a foundation, if 400,000 daily passengers have vibrated a stretch out of tolerance, a crew corrects it before the first morning train ever touches that rail. The ground beneath the train is effectively reset every 24 hours. That is not cheap. The maintenance bill for the Shinkansen track runs higher than the cost of operating the trains themselves. But the arithmetic isn't generous. It's ruthless. One derailment wipes out more than 10 years of that preventive spending in a single event. Japanese rail law leaves no grey area on accountability. Safety isn't encouraged. It's enforced. The train isn't safe because the engineering is sophisticated. It's safe because everything surrounding it is built to give failure nowhere to hide. What did the train change? Pull back one more step and you see what that actually produced. The Shinkansen connects Tokyo, Nagoya and Osaka, 320 miles of corridor. Before it existed, those were 3 separate cities with 3 separate economies, divided by distance and travel time. After it, the distance became close to irrelevant. Workers cross between them daily. Capital and supply chains move with them. What geography separated, the train quietly stitched together, and that stitching quietly underwrote one of the most significant economic integrations in modern history. Every nation now laying high-speed rail, China, France, Morocco, the United States, is attempting the same thing. They're all buying the same answer to the same problem. A train over £1 million gripping a rail that was rebuilt last night, leaning through a curve at 200 miles per hour. Your water bottle doesn't move. That isn't luck. That's what 6 decades of refusing to let physics have the last word looks like. How trains pull 25,000 volts without breaking the wire. But here's what that entire explanation still leaves out. The track is engineered. The bogies tilt. The maintenance crews work through the night. None of that answers one question you haven't thought to ask yet. Where does the power actually come from? And how does a moving train grab 25,000 volts from a wire overhead without destroying everything it touches? Look up at the roof of any electric train and you'll find a folding metal arm pressed against the wire above it. That arm is called a pantograph. It isn't just resting against the wire, it's actively pushing upward, held in constant contact by pneumatic cylinders that compress and extend in real time, tracking every dip and rise in the overhead line. The arm breathes with the wire instead of fighting it. The part that actually touches the wire isn't steel, it's a strip of carbon graphite, the same material at the core of a pencil. Graphite conducts electricity easily, but more importantly, it behaves as a dry lubricant. Instead of grinding against the copper wire and destroying miles of infrastructure, the carbon strip wears itself down slowly, protecting the wire above it. When it gets too thin, you unbolt it and slide a new one in. The wire survives, the strip takes the damage. Now here's the part that should stop you. If that wire ran in a perfectly straight line, the friction would hit the exact same spot on the carbon strip with every mile. It would cut a groove straight through the arm and eventually snap it. So engineers solved it the way you'd never expect. They hung the wire crooked on purpose. A deliberate zigzag left and right between every pole. The wire sweeps across the full width of the carbon strip as the train moves, wearing it down flat and even, never cutting through. The track is reset every night. The wire is worn down evenly by design. Every system on this train survives not by resisting damage, but by controlling exactly where it happens. If there's something you walk past every day and wonder about, drop it in the comments. We read every single one, and the best suggestions make it into future videos. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next.